James Bond is up for grabs, and not by his typically beautiful love interests. The distribution rights to the high-profile franchise are on the table, and that has Hollywood all shaken and stirred. The current deal for Sony Pictures Entertainment to release James Bond movies will expire following the release of Spectre, which opens overseas this week. Sony has distributed the 007 films under a deal with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and Danjaq for the past decade. Danjaq, a small British company, has produced 24 of the 26 films in the series since the 1962 original Dr. No.
I admire your luck, Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
Although MGM makes movies, it needs a major studio partner to distribute them to theaters. All 4 Bond films released and marketed by Sony have performed well. Most recently, Skyfall grossed $1.1 billion worldwide in its 2012 release, the highest ever for the series.
Everybody needs a hobby.
So what's yours?
Resurrection.
Warner Brothers, Paramount Pictures, and 20th Century Fox are all interested in releasing future Bond films, but there is little profit to be made from the distribution rights. In an email released by hackers last year, one Sony executive discussed what was called, quote, MGM's one-sided deal, which earned Sony just $57 million on Skyfall. The distributor which wins the Bond rights will gain prestige, but will have to devote resources to the franchise that would otherwise go to other more profitable films it owns. Under the current agreement with MGM, Sony funds half of all the Bond movies' production budget and advertising costs. Sony later receives 25% of the profits after recouping those upfront costs. MGM keeps the rest of the profits, while Danjaq separately receives a hefty portion of the film's revenues. But for the Bond movie's theatrical distributor, there are benefits beyond the small but certain profits. Having a billion-dollar grossing film on its slate helps the studio negotiate more favorable terms with movie theaters and other partners to attract top creative talent.